Hi there, and welcome to the Salt and Pepper, where we cook for real life using real food and we keep it real simple. And today's dish is pasta primavera with linguine and some fresh vegetables. Now, sometimes pasta primavera is made with cream, but we're gonna keep it really light and fresh for the summertime, and we're not gonna add any cream. But don't worry, we're gonna still have all the flavor that you need. This dish is delicious. So the first thing we're gonna do is put in water. And usually I use some kind of a broth. And you certainly can do that. You can use a chicken broth or you can use a vegetable broth. I'm gonna use water and this vegetable base that I get from Miners because it really does a great job at flavoring a vegetable dish. We're not gonna add any meat today, but you can also add that in, and I'm gonna give you some cooking times and suggestions for meat a little bit later in the video. So the first thing we're gonna do is put in 3 cups of water. This is just tap water. You can use cold or hot, it makes no difference. If you use warm water, it will come to pressure a little bit quicker, but it's not necessary. And then we're gonna put in 1 tablespoon of the Miners base. Now again, you could use chicken stock or you could use vegetable stock. So this is a optional ingredient here. But I like the flavor it gives. It's really good. And that's a half of a tablespoon. We're gonna add in a whole tablespoon. We're gonna do a pound of linguine noodles. Usually I make all my recipes with 8 ounces, which is half a box, but a lot of people like to make a full box when they're making a spaghetti dish or a pasta dish. So I figured this time I'll go ahead and do the instructions for a full pound of linguine. All right, so don't even need to stir this. Nothing. All we're gonna do here is go ahead and get our linguine, and we're gonna break it in half, and we're gonna just layer it in. So you go one way across the pot with 1 handful, and then you're gonna do the same thing, but go the other way. This is gonna help prevent the noodles from clumping. And we're just gonna keep crisscrossing until we're done with the full pound of linguine. Now, not all of the noodles will be submerged in the liquid, and that is okay. The vegetables are gonna put off their own liquid, so that's gonna add to this during the pressure cooking time and get everything cooked up for us. Last little bit. Okay, so all of the noodles are stacked in there in a crisscross fashion, and now we're just gonna start throwing in our vegetables. Now you can do the vegetables first, but I like to put them on top just because that gives the noodles more contact with the liquid in the bottom, and the vegetables will also release liquid as they're cooking, and that just helps to cook the noodles evenly. So I have 2 red onions. Now you could use any type of onion or you could omit them if you don't like. That's the beauty of this dish. I basically grabbed vegetables that I had and needed to use up, and I encourage you to do the same thing. You don't have to use the vegetables that I'm using. You don't have to use as many, or you can substitute other vegetables if you like. It's really up to you. This is a really customizable dish. So to cut these onions, I'm gonna do a really simple cut. I'm just gonna take both ends off and peel the paper. And usually the first layer of onion comes with it, and that's fine. Okay, so how I'm gonna cut this is put it straight down on the flat surface on the cutting board. Go through it this way. Again, flat surface down. Go this way. I'm just making large chunks. Because we're not adding meat to this dish, I want the vegetables to have some substance. We're gonna go under pressure for 3 minutes, and I don't want the vegetables to completely disintegrate in that time period. So I'm gonna make them a little bit chunkier. Now you could change this up. You could make them smaller if you like. It's completely up to you. All right, same thing for the second onion. All right. All right, so now for our carrot. I've already peeled this carrot, so I'm just gonna take both ends off. Now, we're gonna go under pressure for 3 minutes, so I need to think about how big I wanna cut these carrots. And I'm not gonna cut them super big or they won't cook at all, you know, in that time frame, but I don't want them to be too small either. So I'm just gonna go down on the diagonal to get about 1/2 of an inch of a diagonal sliced carrot. I think that's gonna give us a good texture at the end. You do not have to do this on the bias if you don't want to, which is the cut that I'm doing when it's slanted like this. It's called cutting on the bias. You don't have to do that. You can cut straight down. Just do about 1/2 of an inch. All right. Now for the cherry tomatoes. We're just gonna cut those all in half. You can cut them long ways or you can cut them this way. Really makes no difference. I just prefer to cut them long ways. This is a beautiful dish. So many colors going on. Okay, all the tomatoes are cut up. And if you don't have fresh cherry tomatoes, you could use whole tomatoes, just dice them up, or you could also use canned tomatoes. One time when I did this dish, I used fire roasted tomatoes and it was delicious. Now the spinach we're not gonna put in because the spinach would cook too much in the 3 minutes of pressure cooking, and the peas are the same, so we're gonna leave those out. But we are gonna put in our garlic. Now this is roasted garlic. I love roasted garlic. I really urge you to use it in this recipe, but if you don't want to, you could use a teaspoon or 2 of minced garlic. And I made these earlier today, and you see how they're just pushing right out? That happens when they're fresh and warm. After they get in the refrigerator, sometimes you have to peel them out, but still not difficult. And to roast the garlic, you cut the top off. So there's a root end and then there's a top end that comes to like a little bunch. You cut that off, drizzle it with olive oil, put it in a packet, a foil packet in the Ninja Foodi with the rack in the low position at 325 for 35 minutes, and you have perfectly roasted garlic. You can do 4, 5, 6 bulbs at a time in the same foil packet, no problem. All right. So the next thing I'm going to add in is a little bit of zucchini. Now what I've decided to do is to do half of the zucchini for some moisture content in here. That's going to add to the liquid that we already have, and it's going to help cook those noodles. But I also want to have some crunchier zucchini. So I'm going to leave some out that I'll put in after the pressure cooking time. So I'm just going to cut the ends off here. This has already been washed. Those in there. So probably I'm gonna do about, let's just do half and half. So I'll just put this over here by the, and actually I'm gonna put this in and this one out. The reason why I decided to do that is because this is a little bit smaller, and the smaller the zucchini, it's a little bit more tender. So just cut these in half. Then I'm gonna cut them in 3s and then just chunk them up. If you notice, I'm trying to keep all the vegetables about the same size so that they cook evenly in the 3 minutes. This one's a little thicker, so I made 4 cuts. So the zucchini's cut up and in there. So now we're gonna grab our little peppers. Now these are little sweet peppers that I get in a bag at the grocery store, but you could use a yellow bell pepper, a red bell pepper. You could even use a green bell pepper if you like. Any kind of peppers you want, or you can leave them out. That's fine too. I like these, they last a little bit longer, and I like the rings that I can just slice really easily here, which I'm doing now. I'm not even gonna worry about the seeds. They're not gonna affect anything. These aren't hot. I'm just throwing them in. So it makes it really simple prep-wise. So I'm just gonna slice these up and get them in. We've got a pretty full pot here. But that's fine. We just need to make sure we don't go past the pressure max with liquid. So we're gonna be fine. These are gonna cook down during the pressure cooking time, so don't be concerned about that. Okay, the last thing I'm gonna add in is some string beans. So what I'm gonna do to cut the little ends off, first you wanna make sure that you don't have any that have any rotten spots or are really tiny. I'm not gonna cook those. I'll use those in something else, but not in this. I want these to be pretty substantial beans because of the 3-minute cook time. And then I'm just trying to line them up here so I can make one cut for a whole bunch. That'll save you some time during prep as well, if you just take them, bunch them, and then cut them. And you can cut them in half, which is what I usually do to put them in. But I don't cut them any smaller than that because I don't want them to cook so much that they become mushy. So I'm using about 10 ounces of string beans. But again, this is totally up to you. You can use as many vegetables or as few vegetables as you like. The other day I made this for a quick lunch for myself. I threw in 2 cups of chicken stock, 3 ounces of just regular spaghetti noodles, 1 red onion, a couple of string beans, and a few cherry tomatoes, and it was perfect. So you don't have to add all this in. I just had it in the fridge and wanted to get it in and get it used up. All right, I think just a few more string beans. We're gonna be ready to go under pressure. All right, that's it for the vegetables. Now we're gonna add in 1 teaspoon of salt. Even though this is gonna feed a lot of people and it's a full pot, we already have some salt in there from the vegetable base. So I don't want to put too much in. You can always add some extra salt at the end. So be careful, when you season in the beginning. You want to season in the beginning, but you don't want to go overboard because you don't want it to be too salty. So we're going to put the pressure lid on. We're going to set it to seal. Turn the Ninja Foodi on, pressure high. The time is going to be 3 minutes. Now this pot is full, so it is going to take a little bit of time for it to come up to pressure. I'm going to guess probably about 10 minutes or so. And then we will do 3 minutes of pressure cooking time followed by 2 minutes of a natural release. Okay, so the pot took a very long time to come up to pressure. I'm gonna guesstimate, because I didn't time it exactly, that it was about 15 to 18 minutes. And then once the button popped up, it also took another couple of minutes to actually start the countdown. So I am going to adjust some things, and I'm going to go ahead and take this to 0 so it stops right now. So we went under pressure for just a little over 2 minutes. I'm going to let it count up just 1 minute of natural release and release this pressure, because keep in mind that the time to pressure is cook time, and I don't want to overcook these noodles. I can always finish cooking them on sear saute if they're not quite done, but once they're overcooked, you can't uncook them. So just keep that in mind. Sometimes the pot will come to pressure a little bit quicker. Now I did put a lot of vegetables in here, and that's probably the reason why it took so long, because it has to heat everything up and create the steam to build the pressure. So just, keep that in mind. If something's taking an extraordinary long amount of time to come to pressure, you may want to decrease the cook time a little bit, or decrease the natural release time a little bit, or both, like I'm going to do here. So now I'm going to release the rest of the pressure. All right, so you can see it took a full 3 minutes for the pressure to be released and the red button to depress. But now I can turn off, or I can remove the lid and see what's going on in the pot here. So I'm just gonna go down in here and get these noodles moved around. Oh, they're looking pretty good. Now, a few of them seem to be sticking together a little bit, so I'm just gonna try to separate them and get them back in, where the heat is down at the bottom, just to let them finish cooking. But really, they did a good job. All right, so let's go ahead and add in the rest of our vegetables. Now, ordinarily, when I've made this before, the vegetables have not been as soft, and that's because they went under pressure for so long. And to be honest with you, I think it's because I used a full box of linguine this time instead of a half. So I think I'm gonna stick with the recipe with a half of a box, the written recipe. And then if you want to do the full box, just know that it's gonna take a lot longer to come to pressure, and your vegetables are going to cook longer, and they're gonna become a lot softer. So I prefer the way that they were with just the 8 ounces of the linguine and not the 16 ounces. All right, so I'm gonna put the rest of this zucchini into chunks in here. Right, we're gonna put in, it's about 2 cups of peas. That is totally optional. I know a lot of people don't like peas. I happen to like the sweetness that it brings, but it's certainly optional. Now we're gonna add in our spinach. We're gonna let the heat of the pasta and the vegetables cook the spinach. So we're just gonna add that in and then fold it in, which might prove to be a little difficult in this big, full pot. Looks good though. I think the other change I would make, if you do want to go with a full box of linguine noodles, which is a full pound, 16 ounces, is I would go ahead and put in 4 cups of liquid. I think that's going to help to have the linguine not stick together as much. All right. So now that that's all folded in, I'm just gonna close the lid for a minute. And just let that spinach wilt for a few minutes, and then we're gonna plate and eat. While we wait for the spinach to wilt and soften that zucchini just a little bit that we added in, and just warm the peas because they don't really need to be cooked, I just wanted to go over a couple of additions that you could add to this if you wanted to put meat into it. So if you wanted to use, let's say, chicken breast, what I would do is cut them in about a 1 inch by 1 inch cube or a 1/2 inch slice. You could do that as well. Put them in at the bottom of the Ninja Foodi, then add your liquid in, then add your noodles, and then add your vegetables. And you could still do the same cooking time of 3 minutes of pressure cooking time with 2 minutes of natural release if your pot comes to pressure within 10 minutes. If it takes the 15 to 20 minutes like it took me tonight, then I would decrease that time to 2 minutes of high pressure with a 1 minute natural release, and then immediately release the pressure. That way you won't overcook those noodles. If you wanted to add shrimp, because shrimp would be delicious in this, what I would do is add it in at the end. I would have it thawed and deveined and shelled off, the shells off, of course, and then fold it in with the spinach and let the residual heat cook that shrimp, because shrimp cooks very, very quickly, and if you put it under pressure, I'm afraid it would become rubbery. All right, so let's get to eating the Pasta Primavera. Oh, first of all, this is the secret. Now, we don't have a sauce with this, okay? It tastes delicious, because yes, I did taste a little bit of it. It tastes delicious, it's flavorful, it's plenty of garlic flavor, it's really, really good. But to make it even better and decadent, what you wanna do is put 1 pat of butter. This is softened a little bit here, but right out of the refrigerator works too. Put 1 pat of butter in the bottom of your dish, and then take a nice helping of the Pasta Primavera. Put it right on top. Now I'm gonna dig in here and get some extra vegetables here. Carrot, string beans, some spinach. Oh, it's beautiful. A couple peas, tomato. All right, look at that. Perfect. Now, you definitely want to top it with some Parmesan cheese. That's going to add the flavor. Or you could use Asiago. You could use Romano. You could use, I mean, really, you could use any kind of cheese you want. You could use cheddar cheese if you want. Swiss cheese, smoked Gouda. That would be delicious. So a little bit of cheese on top. And then for me, I like to put just a little bit. I didn't want to do this. I was thinking I would just shake it over, but I really don't want to do too much of this because these red pepper flakes are really spicy. And then a little bit of black pepper for me. And this is, of course, optional. All right, there we go. All right, so now when you go to eat it, go right in the center and twirl around where that butter is, and you are gonna get the most delicious bite of Pasta Primavera. All right, looking forward to this. Wow, that is so good. That is so good. Now the string beans are overcooked. They're not usually cooked this much in the test recipes that I did. So I'm not a big fan of that. So definitely, I'm gonna write the recipe for 8 ounces of spaghetti and cut everything in half so that your time to pressure isn't as great. But if you like really soft vegetables, then this, you wanna do a huge batch of it, go right ahead. You can follow this recipe. Now the carrots are good. They're perfectly cooked. The spinach is good, the peas are good. The pasta's delicious. Very, very good. Absolutely fantastic. I hope you give this one a try. Thanks so much. We'll see you in the next video, which we're going to link to right over there.